All right, you guys. Well, hey, happy to see you all tonight. I have many people that are going to be jumping on, grabbing the recording. So I'm going to try to get through this beginning part. Those of you who paint with me all the time, you guys know the drill. Just tune me out for this beginning part. You already know how to set up your paints and all of that. So this is going to be our painting tonight. I'm super excited about this one. I have been trying to come up with a manger scene or a nativity scene, a good one, for a few years that doesn't focus a lot on facial features or bodies. And I think that this is a really good one. It's going to be a good balance, and it has some techniques that we've never gone over before. So I'm really excited. So for those of you who have picked up paint kits from me, you should have 4 brushes in your kit. You should have a background brush. You should have I think this is a size, I don't know, maybe a size 10 flat, and a size, gosh, I can't see on mine. Another small one that's I think it could be a 4, my guess, a 4. And then you have a detail brush, okay? So we'll be using all of these brushes tonight, and I will know them by name. Hopefully I can get my notes and I can look exactly what sizes those are. You also are going to be setting up your palette. So here's my palette tonight. So you have little tubs of paint, and you are welcome to dump them out on your plate. I like to set mine up in sort of I keep my neutrals together. I call this one red brown. This is my dark brown. This is black. And I have my white across from my black, and then I have a little bit of yellow and a little bit of blue. Okay, so feel free to set your palette up however you are comfortable. You do not have to dump out all of the paint that I gave you. In fact, I recommend you probably take out about half of it. You can dunk it, like tap it on the side of your plate, or you can get like a plastic spoon and you can scoop out some paint. But save the other half in case you need it later tonight, or in case you decide to go back and work on this painting tomorrow, or if for some reason you have to leave class early, then you can have paint to work on it at another time when you are able, okay? That way you don't run out. So, and then sometimes I give you so much paint, you have enough to just hang on to. You can do a whole nother painting if you want to, okay? So you got lots of options there, okay? So I'm gonna give you guys a moment to set your palettes up. So my workspace, right in front of me, I have my cup of water right here, okay, on my right side. I have my brushes right here on my right side, and I have a paper towel. And then I have my canvas that's sitting right in front of me here, okay? You wanna make sure that your canvas is sitting in front of you in portrait position, which is up and down, not landscape, which is side to side. Okay, our painting tonight is in fact in portrait position. However, you can paint this however you want to, okay? I'm gonna be teaching you everything here step by step, but feel free to take what I teach you and make it your own, okay? If you wanna put your barn and your manger on the other side of the canvas, then go for it, okay? If you want your wise men on the other side, however you wanna do it, you guys, you know the drill. You can really make this your own, okay? All right, I'm gonna give you one more minute to kind of get your palette set up and get your situation handled here where you have all of your supplies. I'm gonna grab one thing to kind of prop my computer up a little bit, and I will be right back. Okay. Okay, guys, so to confirm our brushes, it's a size 8 flat, okay? And it's a size 4 flat. Those are the 2 brushes that we're using tonight. So those of you with Ultimate Paint Kits, you wanna grab a size 8 and a size 4. Okay, that's gonna be what we use. And, oh, gotta grab one more thing. Goodness. Okay. All right. I had my kids with me all the way up into 6:59. At 7 o'clock, I was like, go home. So my brain feels a little bit crazy here. That's why I don't have my my things all set up like I normally do. Okay, you guys, so let's go ahead and jump right into this. So those of you who paint with me, you know we are working with acrylic paint tonight, and this paint does not like to be mixed with water. So refrain from taking your brush, dunking it in your water, and then mixing around your paints. Try to, especially when you wash out your brush, get all the water out of it on your paper towel, and it's just, this paint tends to be a little bit transparent, and so if you start mixing water with it, it's not only going to be more transparent, but it's also just going to take a lot longer to dry. And especially in our background and in those layers, we're going to want our layers to dry pretty quick tonight. Okay, that way we can get through this painting in 2 hours. Okay, and let's see, it's 7:12 now, so about 8 o'clock we'll take a 5-minute break or so, maybe 10 minutes. It's just going to kind of depend on how much we can get done. But we will take a break at that time, so if you need to run and go get a snack or use the restroom, you are welcome to do that. Of course, you're welcome to do that at any time, but if you don't want to miss a step, then around 8 o'clock we will be taking a break, okay? You can also use that time just to kind of catch up and kind of do whatever you want to work on, okay?
Okay, and which brushes did you say? 8 and what else?
We have a flat 8, a flat 4, and a round detail brush, as well as a background brush.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 4 brushes tonight. Okay. Ooh, let me get my water. All right, excellent, guys. Diane, go ahead and mute yourself for me if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No worries. Thank you. Okay, you guys, so let me show you the painting. I do recommend, if you have a way to pull up this painting on Facebook on your phone, or if you have an extra computer or iPad or something, pull this painting up. It's on the Humble Life page. That way you have it for reference. I do show it often throughout the class, but it's really nice to have it right in front of you, just to put your eyes on it, and then you can watch what I'm doing and kind of go back and forth, okay? Okay. So let's get started. We're going to start with our background brush. So it's the largest brush that you have in your pack. We're going to start with our background. Okay, so our background is a mixture of black and blue. Okay, so we're going to make kind of this starry kind of night. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some black on my brush like so. I'm also going to take some blue. Okay, black and blue. You guys know I love to mix color on my canvas instead of on my palette. So that's just what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start painting, and I'm kind of just gonna paint in any direction I want. And I wanna cover this whole first top of my canvas. I would say probably down maybe about 2/3 of my canvas, roughly, I'm gonna cover with black and blue. Okay, and I'm gonna be kind of scribbly, okay? I'm gonna kind of go back and forth, maybe make some X's. I want to show motion and movement in the background, okay? And so right now I'm just really focusing on covering this area. So when I go back to my palette, I might pick up a little more blue than black next time, or maybe a little more black than blue, just kind of depends. You can't really go wrong. Okay, you want a mix of both. And I am gonna paint my edges. That is nice and good craftsmanship, okay? So you're gonna wanna cover your edges. So my top edge up here, I'm just getting real quick. Okay. My side over here. Now, I'm a fast painter too, so don't feel like you have to keep pace with me. Okay, work at your own speed. When we move on to a different step, you know, kind of watch and see. But I work quick, that way I can work, and then I can come back and kind of check on you guys and see how y'all are doing, okay? So don't feel like pressure if I'm working too fast for you. So I really like it. I don't know if you can see in the camera. I'll try to show you, but I have some blue streaks happening. There's kind of a really intense glare, but I have some blue streaks happening and some black streaks happening. Some areas are a little bit more black than blue, and some areas are more blue than black. So I'm liking all of that variation. The area that you really want to focus mostly on is going to be the top half of your painting. This bottom part down here, some of it is going to be getting covered. We're going to travel upward when we start to work on our like our sandy kind of area or hay or whatever that is down there. So don't worry too much about that. In fact, you'd probably want to put a nice thin layer of paint down here, but up towards this top part, is really where you can really layer it on, okay? So like I said, you can really create as much movement back here as you want, because we're going to be really working and showing that light just kind of radiating out of that manger a little bit later. So whatever kind of movement you do in the background now will really help that, okay? I'm going to kind of show you this next part because my paint is still wet and I want to work while I have a bit of wet paint here. But if you're not here yet, don't worry, okay? I have not washed my brush yet. I'm going to grab a little tiny bit of white on my brush. You see that? Now, I know that my manger is going to be roughly about this area right here. It's not in the middle of my canvas, but it's over a bit to the left, okay? So, knowing that my scene is going to be kind of over here, I'm going to kind of take this white paint and I'm going to lightly kind of start to streak it. Now I'm streaking it and I'm using the side of my brush. So there's the wide side of your brush like this, and when you turn it on its side, you get the thin side. So I'm using the thin side of my brush and I'm kind of streaking in some white, kind of coming from this general area. Okay, see how I'm doing that? Now, if you feel like you get too much white, okay, just take some black and cover it right up. It's a game of push and pull, okay? Maybe you want a lot of white. Maybe that's really, you just think that's beautiful and you want a lot of that, go for it. But if you kind of feel like you've got too much going on, then you can just take some black or some blue. I might take a little bit of both, and I'll show you. I can just kind of push some of this back into the background here. Okay, that blue is really pretty. I'm streaking some blue on top of this. That's really pretty. Something a little bit different than what I did in my original painting. Okay, but you can kind of play with that a little bit. I'm going to put my canvas down here for a moment. I'll angle it down so you can see, but I need some better leverage here for a moment. Okay, it feels good. Okay. I'm gonna give you guys a moment to kind of work that out a little bit. When you are done with this area, you can take your brush and you can put it in your water and wash it out, okay? Okay. So that's kind of where I'm at so far, okay? And I'll show you the, my original painting is the white streaks are a little less predominant. I kind of went a little bit bolder in this painting, so you can kind of see the difference here. So you can kind of decide what kind of look you want to go for here. Okay, how's everybody doing so far? Okay. Okay. All right, so you're gonna wanna wash out all of that black and blue out of your brush. So I just swirl mine around in the water, kind of dab the bottom of my jar. And then once I take my brush out, I kind of wipe off some of that water, and then I use my paper towel and I sandwich my brush, especially the bristly part down in there, in my paper towel, and I just get all that water out. Okay, it doesn't have to be bone dry, but it's good to have it be as dry as possible. Okay, you especially want to get the water off of the metal part of your brush. You don't want the water droplets kind of coming down and mixing with your paint. Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you my palette again. We're going to switch now. We're going to switch gears and we're going to start working on the bottom part of our painting. Okay, so let me show that to you real quick. You can kind of see all that texture in there. You see this transition area where the dark blue and black kind of starts to meet this, this brown color, okay? See all that texture down in there? Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm first going to mix kind of a medium brown, okay? Now I will tell you guys, this red brown right here, when you mix it with white, it starts to get a little bit on the pink side, okay? So it's important if you use it to try not to use as much of it as you would this one. So I always use more of my dark brown when I'm mixing them than my red brown, okay? But you can mix the two together here and then grab some white, okay? And start mixing it in there. You're gonna get a really pretty sandy color. If it feels a little bit pink to you, grab more of your dark brown and start to mix it in, okay? Now, you don't need to mix a solid color. You can let this be a bit marbled. You see how I have a little bit of dark brown mixed in, I have some of that red brown, and I have white, and I can see all of those colors pretty clearly, as well as on my brush. You see my brush looks really nice and marbled, okay? You do want a lot of this color, okay? So you wanna pull in a lot of paint here because we're gonna be using it to cover our whole bottom part of our canvas, okay? Okay. Let me get you guys in a little bit closer here. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm kind of gonna start at the bottom down here, and I'm just gonna start by just putting in some movement. I'm Xing, I'm going back and forth on top here. And I'm just gonna keep putting down some brush strokes, some short, quick brush strokes until the whole bottom of my canvas is covered. And while I'm down here, I'm gonna go ahead and get this bottom edge. Okay, get that bottom edge and get that side here. Okay, and I'm gonna come all the way up to where that navy blue is, okay? So you'll notice you can probably see your canvas coming through. You guys see mine kind of showing through a little bit? That is okay. In fact, even on the original painting, if you look at it, you can definitely see some canvas showing through in the bottom. And that's gonna work in our favor. That's gonna give us dimension without us even really trying, okay? Sometimes we don't want the canvas to show through, but in this case, I think it's okay. Okay, so I'm coming right up to my horizon line. That's where the dark line meets the light, where the background meets the foreground, okay? Now, I have my whole bottom covered here. So what I'm gonna do now, just to give it a little variation, I'm gonna go back. I have not washed my brush. I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of that red brown. And here and there, I'm just gonna kind of put some of that in. Now I'm gonna grab just dark brown. And I'm gonna put some of that in. See how that blends in really nice? Okay. I'm not really thinking too hard about where I'm putting this. I'm just kind of putting it in, blending it in. Okay. I'm gonna start to travel upward here. So I'm taking my brush and I'm gonna start to blend this horizon line in, okay? I know that my manger scene is over here, so I'm gonna come up on both sides up a little bit higher. I'm just putting in those marks just so I can see how high up I'm gonna go, okay? I'm gonna start putting in this color up here. Okay, remember I'm being kind of quick, hatch marky, okay. I've got some dark areas in the bottom. I've got some light areas in the bottom. And I'm starting to come up and blend in that horizon line. But it's not blended yet. We still have another step here. So if it looks kind of weird to you, that is okay. What I really want you to focus on right now is this bottom part, okay? Make this bottom part what you want, okay? So you can even grab just a little bit of white and pull some white in there to lighten things up if you want to in some areas, like I just did there, okay? But really, let your brush do the work, okay? Drag and pull your brush so that it gets this nice textured feel, okay? You've got a lot of movement going on. I'm being quick with my brush. I'm not thinking too hard about these movements, okay? I'm really just getting the paint on there, okay? Okay. You could work backgrounds like this forever and ever. At some point you have to quit. Okay, so I haven't washed my brush yet, okay? But what I am gonna do, I'm just gonna wipe off some of this paint here. Now that I'm up in this area, okay, I'm gonna take a little bit of blue and black on my brush. So I have not washed my brush. I got a little bit of black, just a little, and a little bit of blue on my brush here, okay? And now very lightly, I'm not going to press hard. I'm just going to be gently dragging the brush across the surface of the canvas. I'm gonna start to pull in a little bit of this blue and black on top of that brown. Okay, so this is a game we like to play called push and pull. Okay, you've played this with me before. Okay, see how I just kind of mooshed in that brown? Now I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna get a little bit of that brown that I mixed and I'm gonna go back on top of it and I'm lightly lightly just back and forth, okay? I'm gonna do that on both sides here. So I've got blue and I've got black on my brush, and I'm gonna very lightly just kind of barely touch the canvas and pull the brush over the surface there, okay? Pull it down, then I'm gonna get brown, oop, just a little bit, and I'm gonna go right on top of it, okay? Okay. See how I blend it in? I'm really just kind of making a mess, right? But it's gonna have a purpose later. It's gonna serve its purpose. Right now, it might just look like a mess to you, but I promise you it will make sense. I'm gonna give you guys a minute or so to work this out, okay? I know it can be a little bit crazy or a little bit scary, blending in the browns with the blues and all of that. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you where we're at and where we're going so you can kind of see the difference in our paintings, but you can kind of see how they're gonna make sense, okay? The trick, you guys, really is just very lightly dragging your brush across the surface of your painting, okay? That looks really nice. Diane, yep, you did it. Lots of really great texture. Cool. Natalie, it looks good. Looks good. Yep. Very cool. I'm going to give you guys just a few more minutes to work on this. And it'll kind of just let our canvases dry a little bit. That's important. This is also something that you can work on during our break as well. We are going to be putting in, actually, believe it or not, we're going to be putting in our big star next, and then we're going to do a little bit of splatter painting. Then we're going to put in our manger and our stable, okay? So we might get to the stable after the break. I don't know, we'll see. It's only 7:30 now, so we'll see kind of what happens. But hey, Jody.
It was too fast. Hi, look.
You need to turn your camera on. Bottom left-hand corner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, you guys. So let me know if you have questions. I am more than happy to look at your paintings and help you figure out if you're having a situation or a problem. You can also send me a message on Facebook Messenger. I have that pulled open right now. And if you want to send me a picture or something like that, I am more than happy to look at that with you and kind of figure out what we can do, okay? Okay, so the next step is going to be our star, okay? We're gonna put our star up in the corner here. So in order to do this, we're gonna use our size 4 flat brush, okay? And your canvas should be dry by now, the top part of it at least. This bottom part probably is still nice and wet, but this top part should be nice and dry, okay? So that's the part that we're gonna be painting on. So I'm gonna go in to some plain white paint. I have just a very little bit on my brush here, okay? And very lightly, without sticking your arm in your paint, I can't promise you that I'm not gonna do that. Okay, kind of figure out where you're gonna want your star to be. I'm gonna put mine over here in this corner, okay, but you might want yours somewhere else. Okay, so I'm going to take my brush. In fact, you know what? It might just be easier if you go ahead and just take your detail brush to do this. So take your teeny tiny brush that you have and take some white paint and draw yourself just a normal 5-pointed star. Okay? Once you have your 5-pointed star, go ahead and fill it in with your white paint. So it's one solid shape. Okay? And then you can make your points a little bit longer than what feels natural. So I'm going to go on top of each one of my points here, and I'm just going to elongate them. So the center of my star is still relatively small, if that makes sense, but my points are getting nice and long here. Try to keep everybody as even as you can. Okay, so I'm just going around, elongating. Okay. And once I have everybody elongated, I'm going to give it one more coat of fresh white paint here. So my star then is nice and solid and bold. Okay, nice and solid and bold. Okay. You might need to take a little distance, get a little distance from your star to make sure that all the sides are pretty even. This guy needs to be a little bit longer for me. Okay. All right, so once you have your star, now we're gonna go in between each of the arms of the star, we're gonna add in another arm, okay? But because we've already done, you know, 2, maybe even 3 white coats of paint on our star, the arms that are kind of going in between these are gonna be a little bit lighter, okay? But I'm gonna take a nice point on my brush and I'm gonna draw in between each arm another arm. Just a little triangle here. And you can decide they can either be just as long as your other points, or you can make them a little bit shorter. Doesn't matter, just be a slightly different style. Okay, that's what I ended up with, if you can see that. Okay, and you can decide if you want to leave those not filled in, if you want to leave them open like that where you can see the black coming through, or if you want to give them one coat of paint back there, which I'm going to do. They'll look a little bit grayer, which I think is really pretty. Or your other option would be, of course, then to go and give them all one more coat of paint so that they are just as white as your original star form is, okay? That is totally up to you. Okay. I know my arm is in the way right now. I'll move just a second. I want to get these all in. Okay. Okay. There you go. I'm going to turn it to the side so you can get really nice and close to it. In the camera, it looks like it's all one shade of white. I don't know if this one will show up the same way or not. I feel like that one kind of looks the same. I don't know. Hard to tell. But you get the idea. Now, when you're done with that star, you can go ahead and put your detail brush in your water. So right now, your background brush and then your detail brush should both be in the water. Anytime we're not using a brush, go ahead and let it live in the water, okay? That way the paint doesn't get kind of gunked up on it and dry it out and hurt the brush. Okay. Is everybody doing okay still so far? Everybody okay with their backgrounds and their stars? Okay. All right, this next part of our painting is really fun, I think. We're gonna do just a little bit of splatter painting. And the way that we're going to do that is I'm gonna show you my palette here, okay? We're gonna use our size, this is a size 8 flat, okay? We want a wide brush for this in order to do this the right way, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna get my brush super wet. Here's my water. I'm gonna get it really wet, dripping wet. I'm gonna drip a little bit of water on to my palette here, and I'm gonna pull some white paint in here. And I'm gonna mix it up. Okay, I want my paint to be a nice, watery, like inky consistency, okay? Maybe like, I don't know, slightly thicker than ink, if that makes sense to you. So I'm grabbing water, and it is okay if you're grabbing dirty water. It's not a big deal. I'm grabbing this blackish water right here, no big deal. Mixing it in with my white here. It only turns the white just a slight, very, very slight gray, okay? But when you pull your brush to the side here, the watery paint should just like ooze off of it, okay? But when you pick it up, it shouldn't quite drip off, right? See, I'm picking up my paint, but it's not dripping off of my, my brush, okay? Mix a little bit more here. It needs to be the consistency so that if you were to tap your brush forcefully, which is what we're about to do, the paint will in fact come off. So this might take a little bit of practice. So one thing that I might recommend you do before you do this on your actual painting, you can do one of two things. You can flip your painting over, okay, so that you're on the reverse side of it, and you can practice this technique on the back of your painting. Or you can grab, if you have like a spare sheet of paper or an extra paper towel or whatever it is, near you, a notebook or something, grab that and put that down and practice splatter painting a little bit on that before you do it on your painting. You're gonna find there are so many different ways that you can hit your brush to splatter, and you're gonna get a lot of different kinds of marks, okay? So I might talk for a lot, or I might say a lot of things here just in this next few minutes, so just hear me out. Your goal is to create this massive starry sky. Okay, so in order to do that, you have a high concentration of a lot of different size dots, okay, in our case, splatters. And I'll tell you from experience, if you get kind of lazy and you just start whacking your paintbrush and they just start going crazy, you're gonna get a lot of stars or dots that have tails on them, okay? And some of those are great because they look like shooting stars, and that's really great. But that's why we need to practice if you don't want a lot of those, okay? The higher up you hold your brush and hit it, The wider area you're going to splatter on. The more goopy your paint is, the more watery your paint is, the larger your dots are going to be. The closer you get to your canvas, the dots can get a lot bigger that way as well. It all just depends on the consistency of your paint and how far or close you are to your canvas, okay? Okay, so I'm going to show you how I do this. Let's see here. I'm going to pull this back so that you can see. I'm going to put my canvas right here. Make sure that you guys can see this, okay? Gotta get the right angle here. All right, so I've got a lot of this watery paint on my brush, okay? Now I'm gonna do most of my splattering in this general area, okay? This is the main area of where I want my splatters to be. Okay, so I've got my paint. Okay, so I'm gonna hold it above my canvas here, and I'm holding it in my left hand. I'm right-handed, and I'm gonna take my hand or my 2 fingers here, and I'm gonna hit my brush like so. And so you can see I just got this really long line here, okay? Now that could be because I'm too close, because I'm trying to get this in the camera for you to see, but also look at all these beautiful little dots I'm getting, okay? So make sure you are far enough away from your splattering so that you don't get hit with splatters, okay? Whatever's around you is gonna get hit, okay? So see how I got some of those huge dots in there too? Okay, if that happens to you, there's a way to fix it if you don't like them, okay? So kind of experiment with this. The less paint you have on your brush and the closer you get to your canvas, the tinier little dots you're gonna get. You have to press harder, but you'll get some really nice ones. So I'm really stepping back here. Okay, if you get some marks that you don't like, and I'm so grateful that I have a couple on here that I don't like, I will show you how to fix them, okay? You can splatter as much as you want. Okay, I think I'm gonna call it a night there with those splatters. Okay, so I will show you what I ended up with, and then, I got it all over my computer. I'm not gonna pick it up totally because it'll start to drip, but you guys can kind of see. Okay, you see that nice line I just got there? I'll show you guys how to get rid of all that stuff, okay? Okay. But we gotta let it dry a little bit first, okay? Everybody splattering okay? Okay. Oh, that turned out nice, Natalie. Good. Hey, Gloria. Pretty. It turned out really pretty. Cool. Nice, Diane. Your rays are just gorgeous. So much light is just pouring out of that area. That's cool. Very cool. All right, you guys. So we are gonna let this be what it is right now. So I have some stars on here that I don't want, but I'm just gonna let them be. Because this paint is super watery, it's gonna need some time to just dry before we fix anything, okay? So we're just gonna let it be, okay? Just let it be for right now. We're gonna kind of move on, I think, to our stable. Because I'm gonna be picking up my painting, I am just gonna take a little paper towel here, and you can watch what I do if you want. Some of mine are really watery. I'm just gonna put a little paper towel dab on some of these and pull up some of the extra water and liquid, because when I pick it up to show you guys, it is going to drip, and I don't want that. So I'm just gonna eliminate that from happening real quick. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start to put in our stable. Okay, so I'll let you kind of take a look at that. We're going to be using our size 4 brush. That's the one we have not used yet. So get that one ready, okay? This is going to be a series of lines that we're going to put in. And all of these lines are the width of this brush. So if you look at your size 4, it's in the shape of a rectangle, okay? Now, when you start to paint with this, it's gonna leave a really nice, crisp line. And the width of your bristles is exactly how wide we want our wooden panels to be, our boards, as we start to kind of build this stable, okay? It's really going to work in our favor. Now, the one thing that we are going to have to kind of experiment with and play with is the actual color that you're going to use to build your stable. In my original painting, I used just the dark brown. I did not mix anything with it. It was just dark brown. And if you've painted with this paint before, you know that that dark brown tends to be pretty transparent. So there's a few layers of that dark brown. Now, my background tonight, it appears as it's drying that it is a little bit darker than my original painting. So I might add maybe a little bit of white to my dark brown so that it pops and it shows up. So you might have to kind of troubleshoot here just to get a brown that's actually going to show up on your background. I don't know, I'm not with you, so I cannot see everybody's background or what you should do. But if we start painting and you're like, this is not showing up at all, obviously you're going to need to add a little more white, or you could even add a little red brown into your color to make the right color, okay? Okay, so I'm going to start with, I'm going to grab a little white here and I'm going to mix it into my dark brown. I'm also going to try to mix a color here that I know is going to show up on camera, because sometimes when I paint on a dark surface, the color doesn't read totally. So for the sake of y'all, so that you guys can actually see what I'm doing, I'm gonna try to make this probably a little bit lighter than it should be. But for the record, I just used plain old dark brown. But for the painting, to get these lines on here for you, I think I'm gonna use a really light brown so that they show up and you can see them well, okay? I'm gonna get you real close. Okay, let's see what we can do here. So like I said, you can start painting and then you can always change your color later if you decide, oh, this just isn't the right color, it's not showing up. But stick with me, let's do these lines together. And then on our second coat, you can change your color however you want to change it, okay? Okay, here we go. So I've got my size 4 brush. I've got paint on it. Now I do not have gobs of paint on my brush, okay? If you can see this, it's not gobby, but there is a good healthy amount of paint on my brush here, okay? I want a good amount, but I don't, when I start to draw, I don't want it to be kind of oozing over the boundaries of where I'm drawing, okay? All right, so I want you to kind of just look at your canvas and try to visualize where you think that the tip top of your roof is gonna fall. Okay, we're gonna draw that first, that kind of A-frame first, and then we're gonna kind of come down, okay? This A-frame is not symmetrical. You can draw yours symmetrical if that's the way your brain works, but one side kind of comes down, I'll show you, and the other side kind of meets it. So if I were to, like this side comes down, but this side comes down further, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna find where I want the tip top of my stable to be, and I'm just gonna give myself a little mark there. Okay, now I'm gonna come down, and I'm gonna go slowly, and I'm gonna let this be the width of my brush. Okay. So I'm drawing a line that is the width of my brush. And I'm going to come down on this side over here now. I drew a nice wide A. Well, I haven't crossed it yet, but a nice mountain. And I'm going back and forth on mine. I'm thickening it up as I go, okay? I think I'm okay with this color. It's different than my original painting. It's lighter, but I like it. It's showing up on my background of my starry sky, and it's showing up on my brown down here, so I'm okay with it. You guys can see it, okay? I'm gonna even out this line just a little bit. I got a little bit wide over here, so just for consistency, I'm gonna come down here. That might have happened to you too. Okay. I am dragging my arm through all of this down here, so sorry if you're seeing that I'm a mess. Okay, so I've got my A. Okay, now from here, I'm gonna do the two outer walls. Okay, so I'm gonna come in just a little bit here, and I'm gonna come straight down as best I can. I can't really see straight here. I'm gonna come down about 2 inches. Okay. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, only it's gonna be a little bit shorter because it's over here. But I want my plane down here, I want them to come to the same spot down here. Okay, I'm gonna do my second coat. I'm gonna do this again. Okay. So as I'm painting, you know, I want these to be roughly about the width of my paintbrush, and I just want them to be as even as I can make them, okay? All right, so now we're gonna travel inward. So I'm gonna come over here. Let's see, let's go straight across the top here. So I'm gonna pick a spot, and I'm gonna give myself a line straight across. Even that out. Okay. And so now on the end of each of these, at the end here, I'm gonna come down. So right here, where this line meets, I'm gonna come straight down and give myself another board. Straight as I can be. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Okay. I'm gonna go back over those. I'm gonna turn this upside down. I'm gonna give them another coat here. It's hard to draw straight lines holding your canvas out to the side here. Okay, that'll do. Okay. All right, and now we're gonna go across here, down here. So I'm gonna give myself a little railing. I'm gonna connect those two right there. And then I'm gonna pick my brush up, but I'm still gonna travel straight across. And I'm gonna give myself a railing on this side too. Okay, now I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna give myself like a little extra support bar or whatever that's kind of diagonal. So it's right up here. Okay. Okay, great. So now go back over and see, make sure that this is a color that you like. Okay, we want it to show up. Okay. And give yourself your second coats. Okay, fill it all out nice. We're gonna fill this area in, before we do any more details, we're gonna fill this area in with a light yellow, okay? So I'm gonna wash out my brush. I still have my number 4 here. And get all that brown off. And I'm gonna mix white and a little bit of yellow. Okay, we're gonna do this part, you guys, and then we'll take our break because it's 8 o'clock right now, okay? So let's fill this in a little bit. So I'm mixing white and yellow, way more white than yellow though. We want a nice pastel, creamy white, or I'm sorry, creamy yellow. Okay, so once you have a color, you guys see that? Here's my yellow. Okay. I'm gonna keep my canvas down here. I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna draw the bottom of my stable with that yellow. So I know my yellow paint comes down to there, okay? And I'm gonna fill this in. So make sure you mix enough of this color to fill out your stable here. And it's okay if you go over your wood boards a little bit. You can always go back over with some brown and sharpen those up. So I'm using the side of my brush to get on those edges, and then I use the thick side of my brush to really fill it in. If you get in any areas where you feel like it's just too tight and you need more space, you can always use your detail brush. Like I might use my detail brush when I get up in this area, just to get that clean area there. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm going to switch over to my detail brush here for a moment. I'm going to use it to get these teeny tiny areas. That little triangle. Okay. I'm going to switch back to my 4. And I'm just going to put in one more kind of quick layer here, just for good measure. So you guys, I'm just going to do one more coat here. Y'all are welcome to continue working on this part. We're going to take a break. We'll come back at, what is it? It's 8:06 right now. So sometime, maybe 8, I don't know, 8:15. Okay. So continue working on the yellow part here. And then if you need to fix up any of your boards, give them another coat here. When we come back, we will work on more details of our stable and put in our wise men, our Mary and our Joseph, and most importantly, our manger. And once I get these coats on, I will put up the original painting so that you can take a look at that too while you work or while you take your break. Okay. Before I go, does anybody have any questions about anything? Did anybody need to show me anything, or do you need to work something out? If during the break you run into a problem, feel free to send me a picture. I'll take a look and we can figure out what to do. Okay. All right, you guys, I will see you back here at about 8:15. All right, you guys, how's it going for you? Hopefully it's going okay. You're not too stressed out. Things are going smoothly. Did anybody have any questions? Cool. That means it's going well. So I think now would be a good time for us to kind of remedy any of our crazy stars that we might have. So what I would recommend doing is taking your detail brush, and it depends on your background. You can, I'm just gonna get black paint, but if you wanna mix like a nice dark blue, that could be good too. What we're basically gonna do is just kind of use a little bit of dark paint to paint right on top of any areas that we don't like. So see, I'm just coming in with my detail brush and I am eliminating this lovely little streak that I got here. Now you might love this streak and you want to leave it on yours if you have any. On my original painting, I got some cool little shooting stars that were pretty cool. So just take a minute and you can fix up your sky a little bit. It's okay if you end up having some little blotches. We're going to be doing some more rays that are going to be sort of, exploding out of our manger, and it will probably cover up any little blemishes that you might think you have. And also, like, you might see them, okay, but somebody looking at your painting for the first time probably will not notice them at all. We are always our worst critic. So don't get too caught up in this, okay, because you want it to look kind of natural. So if you do end up covering up a lot, like I feel like I covered up a lot in this little area, what you can do to make it even look more natural is get that black off of your brush or your blue or whatever, and then go in with a little bit of white, and you can put in your own little stars here. See how I'm doing that? Right on top of some of that black. So you don't even see that black streak anymore, or, that kind of, yeah, that little streaky area. Now, look at that. It's like it never happened. Voila. You can do that anywhere. Okay. And that too is something that you can work on after we get all of our other details in. If you want to, you could work on that forever. You could paint a whole constellation in your sky if you wanted to. All kinds of crazy stuff. All right, you guys. So let's move on. Let's go ahead and put in the rest of the details into our stable. Then we'll work on our wise men over here in the corner. And then we'll put in our Mary and our Joseph and our manger. And then we will pour light out of our manger. Okay, and that'll be the final touches that we'll have to do. Okay. All right, so I'm going to continue using my detail brush, okay? Especially for these little parts of our stable here. So with that, I've got my same brown that I've been using. I'm going to pull you guys in a little bit closer here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to give myself a little line, much like this one, this board that comes across here. I'm going to give myself a little board right here. Okay. Notice when I paint it, I paint over it like 3 or 4 times. It's just making it nice and thick. I want it the same boldness, not thickness, but boldness is the rest of my painting. I'm gonna give myself 2 or 3 boards right here. I can fit 3 in this painting. In my original painting, I could only fit 2. So fit in as many as you want here for that little railing. You see that? Those are tiny. Okay. Now when we go across to the other side, things get a little bit bigger. Okay. I'm going to turn mine to the side because it's just easier for me to paint this way. But I'm going to paint 3 boards, okay? Well, maybe I might do 2 on this one, on this painting. I could do 3 on the other one, but they're going to be the same thickness as these were over here, but they're going to go all the way up to the top. So that's very light. I'm just going to put it in just kind of as my map. I don't even know if you can see that one. 1, I'm going to do 2. I'm sure my hand is in the way. Give me 1 second. And then my third one is going to lean. Okay, so there's 2. Okay, so here goes my third one. And you don't have to do this. This just gives the stable a little bit of character, okay? I'm going to lean it. So I'm going to go at an angle here. Up and lean right onto that board. Well, now it's kind of meshing into that one, so okay. So let me show you, I did it better on this one. Okay, so I did 1, 2, 3, and then I have 1 that's leaning here. Okay. And my painting I'm just doing now, I did 2 boards here and then I did 1 leaning. Okay, but it did kind of lean into the other one, so let me get that fixed real quick. But you can paint or build your stable however you want. Okay, you want everything to be the same opacity. Okay, it doesn't have to be the same thickness, like width-wise, but you do want your paint to be as thick as your other boards are, okay? All right, so here I am so far. I'm gonna go back in later with some yellow, and I'm gonna fix that area there a little bit, okay? See how I made that mistake? Okay. Okay, so while this is kind of drying, I'm gonna come down here and I'm gonna work out my wise men. Okay. Now it depends on how dark your area is down here. Mine's pretty dark, so I think I'm gonna do my wise men in dark brown and black. I'm gonna mix those 2 together to get a really rich dark brown. Now in my original painting, I only used dark brown, okay? So decide how dark you need them to be because you want them to show up, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and mix a little bit of black and dark brown together. Okay, now if you are using your teeny tiny brush to mix, make sure you don't bring big gobs of paint over to your canvas. Okay, just kind of roll your brush a little bit onto the side of your palette there. Okay, I'm gonna get you guys really close so that you can see this, okay? All right, so my wise men are gonna be over here in this corner, okay? So my first one is just going to be a little circle. So I'm gonna paint a tiny little circle here for his head. Okay, so start with a circle. Can you see that? It's so tiny. Okay, and now from this circle, I'm going to do an oval. A nice, long, thin oval. You see that? Okay. Now, from this one side of my oval, I'm going to create sort of like a like a train on his robe. His robe is walking, or it's blowing. So I'm going to come out the back here and just create like a little tail off of that oval. I'm going to do the same thing on his head. Okay. Got a little tail there. Okay. Look at that. It's your first wise man. I'm just kind of blending these guys together a little bit more. Okay. All right. Moving right along. So our next wise man is up a little bit higher. So I'm going to draw his circle or his head the same way, just over and up a little bit. So I'm going to give him the same size head as my first wise man. Okay, got a circle. Okay, do the same thing. I'm going to do an oval that comes out from him. Okay, and I'm also going to give him a bit of a train here for his robe. Okay, same thing on his head. Okay, but the difference with this one is that we're going to show his hands in front of him because he's carrying a gift that we can see. The other guy might be angled a little bit differently. So I'm just going to draw a little line coming out of the front of him. Can you see that? Okay. And now our last wise man. This guy is kneeling. So by the time you're done, each one of them are going to be slightly different, okay? So he's over here. I'm going to draw his head a little bit lower than my first wise man's head. He's also just a circle. So his head's kind of in line with maybe this other guy, the bottom of him. Okay, so I'm going to draw a circle. Okay, I'm going to draw kind of a smaller, more stout oval this time, not as long. Because he's on his knees, and so his train is going to go back farther and longer. So more of like a rectangle, or I'm sorry, a triangle coming off the back of him. You see that shape right there? It goes longer there. Okay. All right, and then his, oh, he also has a little train here coming off, or a little tail coming off of his head. Okay, but then his arms come out, they're folding. So instead of just praying maybe, or holding a gift up simply like this, you can see that he has arms that come out. So I'm going to draw a line perpendicular coming out, and then a line going straight up. Okay, so something like that. Can you see that? Wise men. Okay, so we're gonna ground them now by giving them a little bit of a shadow. So I'm gonna add just a tiny little bit of white to this color, just to make it a little bit lighter, but I still want it to be dark and rich. Okay, I'm even gonna add a little bit of dark brown to this. I really do want it to be kind of muted. Okay, so I'm going to start at the first wise man that we drew. Okay, his shadow is going to come up across, so just the top part of his cloak here, and it's going to kind of swoop out, kind of come under a little bit here, go underfoot, and I'm just smearing this color under here. Okay, I'm not thinking too much about it. I might put a little bit in front of him here. Okay, but see, I've just kind of smeared that down there. All right, this next guy, his shadow kind of goes into this other wise man, but I'm going to do the same thing, just kind of give him a little bit of darkness underneath him. Okay, and then lastly, the kneeling wise man, his shadow is kind of probably the biggest. Okay, and it's sort of like almost like a rectangle down here. With like his arms coming out. So a rectangle with like a hand here. You see that? I'm really just smudging shapes down here. Now the shadows are really important because there is so much light pouring out of baby Jesus that even in the darkest of night, the shadows are being casted, okay? So that's a really important part of this painting, I think, to show how much light is in that tiny little manger. Okay, so speaking of shadows, we're gonna put in the shadows of the stable. So I'm still gonna use my teeny tiny brush, and I'm probably just gonna use the same exact color. I might actually just use dark brown. This feels a little bit dark. But you wanna use just your plain old dark brown or add a little bit of black to it. It really is just gonna depend on your foreground here and what you did. Okay, now these shadows are pretty simple, okay? I'm gonna start at the bottom here with my teeny tiny brush, and I am gonna just kind of give it like a little bit of a border almost, like I'm just gonna ground it, okay? So there's some darkness here that goes all the way across, okay? Kind of just leveling things out, kind of just grounding it, okay? Now, I'm gonna draw some of these rays just kind of shooting out. I'm gonna start on this side, it's just easier for me. Out here, I'm gonna go out, straight out that way. I'm being kind of loose, but all of my lines now are gonna be parallel to that one. That's the angle now, okay? So these next couple, I guess, are gonna kind of come out. Well, not perfectly parallel, right? Because then it wouldn't be a light casting shadow, but I'm going to draw a line coming out from each one of my my boards. And they can be kind of smeary. They do not have to be perfect. You see how I'm just kind of showing. I'm going to turn this to the side here. That's a lot of paint. So just a suggestion here, right? I am going to do a bar that's going to go across right here lightly and kind of loosely because I do have a railing I'm going to show a shadow for. Okay, something like that. Okay, and if you want to, you can even show the shadow of the leaning post. Okay, just a suggestion. See how that's just so loose. There's really loose paint there. Okay, not a science. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. You want to be very loose with it. You're going to shoot the first one right out there. Okay, right out there. Try not to think too hard about it. Okay, you're just going to bring another line out from each bar. Okay, you're going to give a railing. You want to give it pretty much the same space, the same distance as your other one. Okay. And you can kind of smear these a little bit. I don't have a lot of paint on my brush at all, and I'm just kind of smearing them. I'm even using my finger. You can even do that. If you feel at any time that you got too dark, like I feel like I'm a little dark in this area, I'm gonna take some of that background color that I used, and same as we did when we were fixing up our sky, I'm just gonna go in here a little bit and I'm gonna put in a little bit of this color and kind of just level some things out here. Okay, you may or may not feel like you need to do that. That's totally up to you. Okay. Okay. But in just a moment, we're gonna have light rays shooting out over this. So this is really gonna get pushed into the background, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna show you where we're at and where we're going so you can get some perspective here. Okay, where we're at and where we're going. Okay. Are you guys still doing okay? Okay. Got little white stars splatter painted all over my keyboard. Okay. All right, you guys. So our second to last step here is going to be putting in Joseph and Mary in the manger. And then we're going to put in the light and then we're done. I'm just going to check across the board here, make sure that everybody is okay. Everybody looks like they're okay so far. I'm going to hop over here real quick to Messenger. Okay. All right, cool. All right. So this next part, we're going to put in Mary and Joseph in the manger. Okay, so we're going to use our detail brush. Now the thing about this part of the painting is that we're going to paint these figures in, and just like the wise men, they're made up of very basic shapes, okay? But what really actually I think makes them look more like people is when we start to blur them out. Okay, so don't get super hung up on making these figures look perfectly like people on the first time around, okay? Just kind of trust that if you get those basic shapes in, like Joseph's arm kind of leaning down, and Mary has, you know, she's got the headpiece on that's a different color than her gown or her robe. It'll just suggest that these two figures are in fact turned and faced towards the manger. And you know, we all know the story, so it's pretty clear that one is a man and one is a woman. And so I think that sometimes people get a little bit nervous about painting figures, but just trust me, I think it's going to be okay. All right. All right, so here we go. So the first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna take my brown. I'm just gonna take my dark brown here, and I'm going to paint the manger, okay? And the manger is just a, it's a happy face, kind of down here towards the bottom, not on the very bottom. Okay, it's a very happy face actually with a top, okay? So let me get you guys real close again. You see that? I'm gonna fill that in. Okay. There we go. That's the most important part of the painting. I'm just going to wipe that dark brown off. I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm just going to wipe it off. Okay. Now I'm going to pick a like a light brown color, like a color that I used in my background here. And I'm going to paint in Joseph's head. And it's just going to be a circle. And it's going to be on this side, slightly above the manger. So when I paint in his body, it'll be next to the manger with his arms sort of leaning in. So there's his head. Okay. I'm going to wipe off that color. I'm going to grab actually a little bit of dark brown, and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of blue. So I get a very muted blue. You could even grab a little red brown and mix it with your blue. I know that sounds weird, but you'll see as you start to mix a little bit, we only need a tiny bit of this color. You're going to get a very muted blue color, which is what we want. Okay. So from there, I'm going to paint in his arm leaning down into the manger straight from his head. So I'm just going to paint a line. You see that coming out of his head? Okay. And now I'm going to paint the rest of his body, which is kind of like a rectangle that's kind of leaning here. So I'm just going to paint a rectangle that kind of comes down to about the bottom of where the manger is. Okay, to that. Hey, Joseph. Okay, there's my Joseph. I'm gonna wipe off that blue or kind of run it in the water real quick. Now I'm gonna do my Mary. Okay, same idea. I'm gonna do a circle for her head in that same brownish color that we used for Joseph. Okay, she's up a little taller. She's not bent over. She's just next to the manger. So I'm gonna do her head up just a little bit higher than Joseph's. Okay, little circle for her. Okay, now I'm gonna grab a little bit of red brown. Just plain old red brown here. Okay, and I'm gonna draw in a thinner rectangle. I'll draw it first and then I'll show you. Coming out of her body and down. And as it gets further down, it kind of fans out a little bit. So I guess it's more of like a triangle here, we could say. Just has a kind of a thicker top. Does that make sense? Okay, and she has her arms out, maybe praying, like so. Okay, I'm gonna wipe off that color and I'm gonna grab that same dark muted blue that we used for Joseph, okay? And now I'm going to give her some more of like a headpiece up here. So I'm gonna go on top of her head. Okay, I'm gonna paint it coming down. And this comes down the length of her gown, her dress, okay, to the bottom here. And then I'm gonna pull even a little bit of blue onto this side of her so that you can see that that is coming around behind her and in between her arms. Can you see that? There, and I'm nice and close. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna pull my Mary down just a little bit more here, kind of level her out with my Joseph real quick. Okay, now it's important that this, this part of your painting is dry before we do this next part. So just give it a second. Try not to paint on it too much, just kind of let it be what it is, okay? Okay. I think I'm pretty dry. Okay, I'm gonna jump back to my size 4 brush. Now, like I said, it's really important that this part of your painting is dry, okay? So make sure it's dry. Now I'm gonna mix a super light yellow. It could even be the same yellow that you mixed for this back part of the barn, the stable. Okay, and you know what? If you still have some of that watery white on your palette, it would probably even be kind of great if you used some of that watery white and mixed it with some yellow. That way you have a really thin, transparent layer here first, just to start to kind of see what's going to happen here, okay? So watch what I'm going to do. and then you guys can jump in and do it, okay? So once again, this part of your painting needs to be dry. I have that liquidy white with a little bit of yellow mixed in, and I'm gonna paint right on top of them very lightly. Very lightly. I am barely touching the canvas, okay? Barely touching the canvas. So I'm starting to kind of create this sort of hazy area. Now I'm kind of going in a circular motion here, okay? I have completely blurred them out, okay? You see that? So now they are hazy. They're so overtaken by the light, you cannot even see them, okay? All right, so now I'm gonna actually take paint, not the watery paint, but the white and yellow mixed together, okay? And I'm gonna start doing this very lightly, and then I'm gonna get more and more powerful as I go. But right now, I'm just gonna kind of map out some of my main streaks, okay? So one of my main streaks is gonna come straight from the manger, and it's gonna come straight up. So I'm gonna draw that straight up, nice and quick, okay? And I'm gonna do one coming straight down, okay? I'm gonna do one straight out to the side, and one straight out to the side. Now notice as I paint this, I'm pressing kind of hard at first, and then I lift up and I kind of whoosh, okay? And now as you do this, you're gonna have to decide if you want your streaks to be more yellowy or more white, okay? It's totally up to you how you want that to be. These are kind of white, okay? And so now that I have the main four kind of like a clock, I can kind of come out to the side and I can start streaking out a little bit more. And every time I streak, I am applying a different amount of pressure. Sometimes I'm pressing heavily, sometimes I'm pressing lightly, but I'm using the thin side of my brush, not the thick side, if that makes sense. So I'm just gonna keep, ooh, that was really, really thick. So I can fix that later and I can show you how. So I'm gonna keep going around. Okay, it's wise to do this with a little bit of paint on your brush. Okay, keep going around. You can do as many or as little of these as you want. Okay, and you can go back and forth between using white or using yellow or using both, however you want to do it. So if you get something thick like that, okay, and you don't want it there, what you can do is take a little bit of your brown, okay, that you had, and you can brush right on top of it like it never happened. Brush it right in. Okay, I'm gonna do that over here too. And then you go back on top of it with more streaks. Just a slightly different shade of a streak, okay? And I'll show you that in a minute. All right, this is still a little wet, so I gotta wait. Now, if you feel like your streaks are too thick with this brush, jump down to your detail brush. And you can use your detail brush to get this effect also. You can blur out Mary and Joseph as much as you want. If you apply a light amount of pressure, you'll get nice thin streaks. If you press hard with your brush, you're gonna get really thick streaks, okay? So you can kind of experiment with that a little bit. Okay, and you can keep traveling around and around until you are happy, okay? So I'm gonna bring mine down here for a moment. I'm gonna thin out some of these. You can do that too if you feel like it, or you can leave them be, whatever you wanna do. Okay, so this guy over here, I'm gonna get my detail. See, I went right on top of that area that I just fixed. And I like using that sort of watery star paint. It's really nice. Nice and transparent. You want to make sure that your rays are coming from the manger. That's your focal point. You want all rays pointing straight in. Okay. So you see how like your stable and the shadows of the stable and all of that really just gets nice and pushed into that background. It's there and you can see it, and those details are important, but once you put in these light rays, it really just kind of pushes that all into the background. Okay. Okay. So I'll show you tonight's painting and the original painting. Okay. I recommend too kind of getting some space from your painting and looking at it from a distance so that you can really see it for what it is. Beautiful, Diane. Beautiful, 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 Natalie. Good job, you guys. Very nice. Get some space, get some perspective so you can see if you need to add in more stars or if you need to add in more beams or whatever it is. Send me a picture and I can give you some fresh eyes. Also tomorrow when you wake up and you look at it, you'll see it differently than you see it right now too. So if you have extra paint, you can kind of fix it up if you feel like you need to, or maybe you don't need to. Maybe it's great. Oh, Gloria. Yeah, hold it closer. Beautiful. That is beautiful. That is an active sky. So much movement. It's wonderful. So, y'all, you paint with me all the time, you guys, you know the drill, but those of you who haven't painted with me before, I absolutely love it when you send me a picture of your final painting. So please, whether that's email or through Facebook Messenger, please send me a picture of your final painting. I would love to see it. I also love to see the space that you're working in, if it's, you know, your kitchen or your kitchen table with your palette and your brushes and your paper towel and all the things. I just love to kind of understand you as an artist and kind of see your workspace. So feel free to send me a picture of your final, or if you have any questions, if there's an area of your painting that you just can't figure out, send me a picture of that area and I can help you kind of figure out maybe it's color or brush or something, and we can kind of work through it together. For those of you who did pick up a kit from me, please take care of your paintbrushes. Go ahead and wash them out in warm water, and then make sure the water coming out of them is running clear, and then just leave them on a paper towel to dry overnight. They will be just fine that way. Please do not leave them in your water cup overnight. What happens is the brushes start to kind of form to the bottom of the cup. And so let's keep our brushes nice and healthy for the next person. And then please just drop your brushes back off at the shop at your earliest convenience. I would super appreciate it. Then I can sanitize them and then redistribute them for our next class. We are going to be doing one more painting before Christmas. I don't think we're going to do one on the 23rd. That is the Wednesday before Christmas. We might. I'm not sure yet, but we are definitely going to be doing one more next Wednesday, and it will be Christmas themed, of course, as well. I think it's going to be like maybe a wreath or poinsettias or some holly or something like that. Maybe something that we can personalize with our initials or our last name or Merry Christmas or Joy or something like that too. Okay, so stay posted for that. And I like always, I just appreciate the heck out of you guys, and thank you so much for joining me tonight, and I can't wait to see your final paintings. And if you guys have any questions, please just send them my way. All right, you guys, have a good night.